I'm going to read the first part of chapter 4 of the mystery of the broken mirror. This one's called The Breaking of the Mirror. If creation is an outworking of the creativity of a God who exists in relationship, and if creation is intended as a sort of mirror in which God's image is reflected, then we would expect an existence based on relationship to be right at the heart of the divine purpose behind creation. Moreover, if humanity in particular is created in the image of God, then we must have a special place in this purpose. In order to illustrate this, allow me to introduce you to the gingerbread man. There he is. Not really a gingerbread man, of course, but a figure who represents all of humanity. Every man, woman and child who's ever been and ever will be. I've had to draw him/her like this precisely because the figure has to represent both male and female. And a stick man wouldn't suffice either, because this particular character has to have an inner life, as we'll see in due course. The figure as it stands at the moment is incomplete, because at the moment he or she stands as an individual. But the truth about human existence is that we exist in relationship. And it was for this that we were created. The first and most important relationship is between ourselves and the Creator, between the image and the source of that image. We can represent this diagrammatically as an upwards relationship, a sort of umbilical cord between the Creator and the creature, a channel through which life flows and we respond with thankful love. There we are, look. There's an arrow going up and down. The movement from God to us could be summed up by that very important Christian word, grace, which means the overwhelming generosity of God towards his creation. Our response could be described as worship, which is not just what we do when we're assembled in church, but it's about the offering of the whole of what we are, everything that makes us who we are, offering that to God. Now, we were not created to be solitary individuals, I believe. God could, I suppose, have created one lonely soul to have poured his loving attention upon. But in thinking in that way, we're already guilty of conceiving of God as some great superhuman individual. If the truth about God's being is that God is relationship, then relationship is right at the heart of the divine being. Then humanity couldn't reflect the divine nature as a solitary individual. Humanity only reflects the image of God when living in community, in relationship. So in one of the Hebrew creation stories, in Genesis 1, God, quote, created humankind in his image. Male and female he created them. Man is not in the image of God, nor is woman the image of God. Only together in relationship are they reflecting the image of God. This is a very important truth to grasp, and which we've too often neglected at our peril. On my own, I cannot reflect the image of God, nor can one gender or one race on its own reflect the image of God. We can only reflect the image of God when we represent humanity in its entirety and accept responsibility for one another. This is the horizontal relationship on our diagram, the relationship of human beings with one another. In most religious traditions, not least the Jewish Christian one, these two relationships are bound closely together, like two sides of the same coin. Jesus adopted the tradition of the Jewish rabbis in his summary of the law. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest commandment. It comes first. The second is like it. Love your neighbour as yourself. Everything in the law and prophets hangs on these two commandments. So says Jesus. They're linked even more starkly by the writer of the first epistle of St. John, who clearly has Jesus' summary of the law in the back of his mind, so that what follows serves rather like a commentary on it. We love because God loved us first. But if a man says, I love God, while hating his brother, he's a liar. If he does not love the brother whom he has seen, it cannot be that he loves God whom he has not seen. And indeed, this command comes to us from Christ himself, that he who loves God must also love his brother. So we can represent this relationship in our diagram as the horizontal relationship, the vertical relationship with God, the horizontal relationship with our fellow human beings. The third relationship is one which has been neglected for too long in the Christian tradition. It's the relationship with the rest of creation, with animal and plant life and the environment. The two biblical creation stories in the book of Genesis offer two different models here. In Genesis 1, Adam, humanity, is given the command, fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea, the birds of heaven, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. This model is one of domination of creation. Genesis 2, however, offers a different model, that of stewardship, of caretaking. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to till it and care for it. Sadly, the former model seems to have been the dominant one in much of human history. Living in a relationship with creation and exercising a God-entrusted responsibility for it seems a natural extension of the relationship we're intended to have with our fellow humans, and a more complete reflection, therefore, of the image of God. So we can add this dimension to our diagram, a downwards dimension, if you like. The fourth relationship is the hardest one to define, and it flows from all the others. It's what happens to the inner life of the human person when self is transcended and the other relationships are working as God intends. A key word here, which best describes what we wish to describe, is a Hebrew one: shalom. Shalom is of paramount importance in Jewish and Christian thinking. We usually translate it as peace. But peace, it in fact means far more than we normally mean by that English word. A wonderful example of where words fail to do justice to meaning. Shalom Alechem, shalom be with you, is a traditional Jewish greeting. And it means far more than the absence of war and conflict. It's rather a positive quality, meaning wholeness, completeness, harmony, life in all its fullness. It therefore has to encompass justice and responsibility. In short, shalom is the outworking of the whole of our diagram. It's the quality of existence which ensues when all the relationships are working as they should. It's an outward expression of the wholeness of life which God wills for human society and indeed wills for the whole of creation. It's also a description of the inner state of the human person, when all those external relationships are characterized by shalom. The fourth relationship, therefore, is the relationship with our inner selves, which God intends should be a sense of peace. That peace which passes all understanding, to quote St. Paul.